Once again, Xiao Shu, let me be taken by mountain bandits for the sake of the Empress. Afterwards, I lost my memory. The day the shadow guards brought me back to the palace, his eyes were evasive, and his tone carried a hint of cold reassurance. The Empress is of noble birth and cannot endure being frightened. Ying, I had no choice but to let you suffer. But I felt completely lost in the fog, not understanding what he was saying. Only, the moment I looked up, my eyes lit up, and I joyfully threw myself into the arms of Prince Duan behind him. My lord, I missed you so much. Xiao Shu's subconsciously opened arms froze in midair, his face suddenly turning as pale as paper. And the 19-year-old Prince Duan before me had youthful features, exactly like how he looked in his younger days. The day I returned to the palace was a rainy spring day. I was a little cold, clutching tightly the chestnut cake in my arms, that still held some residual warmth. I chatted idly with the shadow guard on the carriage roof. Was it little senior brother who asked you to bring me back to the palace? Is my little senior brother really waiting for me in the palace? Only the sound of wind and rain answered me. No one replied to what I said. I wasn't mad either, just started giggling silly to myself. My little senior brother is my husband. Everyone says a short parting beats being newlyweds. I had been married to my little senior brother for barely 3 months when he went down the mountain. I waited and waited all alone on the mountain. After waiting all these days, I finally got a letter from home, saying he was doing well, inviting me to see the lanterns on the night of the Shangyuan festival. So I excitedly went off to find him. But I ran into horse bandits on the road, and they said they were going to take me back to their mountain stronghold. I only remember getting scared and passing out. When I woke up again, the horse bandits were all gone. The carriage moved steadily toward the palace. A shadow guard told me not to be afraid, that His Majesty was bringing me back to the palace. I understood. Before heading down the mountain, little senior brother confessed to me that he was the 4th prince of the current dynasty. The His Majesty, the shadow guard spoke of, must be little senior brother's imperial father. I was a little nervous. During our 3 years on Mount Qingyang, I had no idea about his prominent status. That is why when we got married, we didn't bother with any complicated formalities. We bowed to heaven and earth, bowed twice at master's grave, and the ceremony was done. There is a custom in our dynasty to gift a hairpin to one's wedded wife. To carve a wooden hairpin for me with his own hands. His fingers were covered in cuts, and the skin on his fingertips was rubbed raw. My heart ached so badly for him. But he happily pinned it in my hair. He said that having Ying meant he had no regrets in this life. I wore a newly tailored red silk skirt and that wooden hairpin. And just like that, I became his wife. I lifted the beaded curtain a little, catching sight of the upturned eaves of a palace corner. Before little senior brother went down the mountain, he hung the jade Buddha his consort mother left him around my neck. He said he was using his most important possession as proof. He would beg his imperial father to grant our marriage and give me a proper title. My eyes curved into a smile. Little senior brother never lies to me. I've always known that. Your Highness, you finally returned. Let me see, are you hurt anywhere? Were you frightened? The auntie in the hall had slightly red eyes and anxiously stepped forward to check my injuries. I clutched my sleeves and backed away repeatedly. Auntie, you've got the wrong person. I am no highness. The auntie's eyes were full of shock. I thought for a moment and told her honestly. Do you know the 4th Prince Xiao Shu? I am his junior sister and newlywed wife. The auntie slowly lowered her hands. She squeezed out a smile on her face that was uglier than crying. Yes, this servant has clumsy eyes. I mistook you for someone else. She softened her voice. Do you still remember Xiao Tao? Xiao Tao is my playmate from Mount Qingyang. We grew up together and are as close as sisters. I jumped up in pleasant surprise. Did little senior brother also send someone to bring Xiao Tao here? The auntie suddenly closed her eyes for a moment. Yes, she'll be here very soon. I am her distant relative. She sent a message entrusting me to take good care of you. My heart settled down. I then beat around the bush, trying to ask about little senior brother. Suddenly, a piercing pain shot through my chest. My vision went dark, and I went completely limp and collapsed. The gagu in front of me caught my body with a terrified look. Before my consciousness sank into the darkness, I heard her trembling voice. Your ladyship, don't sleep. I had a dream again. I dreamed of a pretty woman. She stood arrogantly beside little senior brother. A phoenix was embroidered on her clothes, and a jade Buddha hung around her neck. I touched my neck. It was completely empty. Weird, I thought. Why is my jade Buddha on her? The palace maid next to the woman scolded me. How bold. Still not paying respects to the emperor and the empress? I looked at Xiao Shu, feeling wronged and scared. Little senior brother. Xiao Shu looked at me coldly. He asked calmly, "What did you call Jen?" I jolted awake instantly. In the outer room, it seemed someone was arguing. A eunuch was drawling in a sarcastic tone. "What kind of stunt is your ladyship trying to pull?" He scoffed softly, his face full of disdain. "I've seen enough of this, faking amnesia drama, in the palace, let alone His Majesty. If her ladyship wants to put on an act, she should at least come up with something a bit more original." The other voice was Auntie's. Her voice was choked with tears, almost begging. "Eunuch Dev, please be kind, and let our lady see His Majesty just once." "Get lost." I frowned. Auntie looked a bit like Xiao Tao. I can't stand seeing anyone bully Xiao Tao, and someone who looks like her won't do either. I looked around and pulled out the sword from the curio shelf. Without bothering to put on an outer robe, I rushed out of the inner hall. Stop. At the same time, a long drawn-out announcement rang out outside the hall. "His Majesty arrives." The eunuchs and maids immediately knelt all over the floor. Auntie saw the sword in my hand. Her face turned deathly pale as she desperately shook her head at me. I realized who this was, lowered my head, and knelt down. The hem of the coiling dragon robe stopped before my eyes. "I will thoroughly investigate the matter of the assassin," His Majesty's deep voice sounded. "You hold resentment against me, I know. I will grant you one wish. This matter ends here. You don't need to play the fool." I didn't understand what he was saying, but I keenly caught the key words. Can it be any wish? It was probably because I looked too happy. His Majesty didn't say anything. His gaze was scrutinizing. It was a bit cold. "Then, could your Majesty grant a marriage between me and my little senior brother?" I stammered. He said, "You once made him a promise, and he was going to ask for your decree to marry me. But I think his wish could be used for more important things. So, this commoner will personally ask for this favor." The hall fell into absolute dead silence. I saw that the eunuch named Eunuch D's eyeballs were almost popping out. What I didn't know was, in my forgotten past, the current emperor, the former fourth prince Xiao Shu. He did indeed ask the late emperor for a marriage edict. But the one he sought to marry wasn't me, but Grand Tutor Shen's granddaughter. Everyone in the capital knows. Back then, His Majesty returned from his cultivation. He fell in love at first sight with the legitimate daughter of the Shen family at the flower banquet. He immediately asked the late emperor for her hand in marriage. This caused a huge stir in the capital. An emperor's promise is incredibly precious. The commoners all said that the fourth prince was a hopeless romantic. Only the other princes knew just how shrewd he was. Since he beat them to the punch, they were secretly grinding their teeth in anger. Grand Tutor Shen is an elder statesman of 3 reigns. Marrying his legitimate granddaughter would be reaching the sky in a single bound. His Majesty stared dead at me. I looked back at him expectantly. After a long while, he pointed at himself. Who am I? Without a second thought, I started kissing up to him non-stop. "You are His Majesty," little senior brother said. "You are the absolute wisest emperor in the world. His most beloved royal father." His Majesty looked like he was going to eat me alive. Unwilling to let it go, he pressed on. "Your little senior brother, what is his name?" When His Majesty's expression was still, he looked a bit like little senior brother. The inexplicable familiarity made me stop being afraid. But right now, with the veins popping on his forehead, he didn't look like him at all. I shrank back a bit and replied in a small voice, "Xiao Shu Shu," as in the name of a kind of jade. I forgot my sorrow, forgot my resentment, and also forgot the person in front of me. I only remembered being 17 on Qingyang Mountain. Somebody gently and solemnly told me, if he could have Ying Ying, he would have no regrets in this life. His Majesty suddenly and very lightly closed his eyes for a moment. I sensed something unusual. Clasping my hands together, I looked at him fawningly. "Your Majesty, I beg you." A teasing voice came from outside the hall doors. "Royal brother clearly invited me to play chess, so why did you hide in here?" You really made it hard for me to find you. I turned my head blankly. A 19-year-old youth walked in against the light, tall and elegant with clear features. My eyes lit up in an instant. Disregarding all etiquette, I happily threw myself into the newcomer's arms. Little senior brother, you've finally come to pick me up. But the person in front of me looked at me in horror, his body completely stiff. Following his gaze, I hesitantly touched the corner of my lips, only to realize that I was trembling slightly from coughing again, my lips deadly pale. I covered my lips and anxiously explained. Don't be afraid, I just missed you too much. Before my eyes was a heavy darkness. Outside the silk curtains, someone seemed to be talking. Her ladyship's illness is of the mind, damaging the internal organs and pent up in her heart. This illness came on fast. If we can't force the medicine down, it'll be very dangerous. His Majesty was angrily punishing the palace maids. How on earth have you been taking care of Consort Shu? How could she get this weak? Auntie stated calmly. Your Majesty has forgotten. 5 years ago, when Prince Yang rebelled, her ladyship took an arrow for your Majesty, which left the root of her illness. During the autumn hunt 2 years ago, His Majesty took the Empress back to the palace, but forgot her ladyship in the mountains. Her ladyship was severely frightened and has been bedridden ever since. Half a month ago, an assassin snuck into the palace and held her ladyship hostage, just to demand an old dress of the Empress. Gugu paused, unexpectedly unable to bear it. His Majesty ordered. His Majesty roared in a low voice. Enough. Ordered what? My thoughts drifted aimlessly. In that instant, an image seemed to flash before my eyes. I saw the Empress, seemingly unable to bear the humiliation, collapse crying into His Majesty's arms. His Majesty's expression was ice cold. He said, Anyone who covets the Empress will be severely punished without mercy. Hearing these words, the woman being held hostage lowered her head like a lifeless puppet. I couldn't see her face, yet I was enveloped by an overwhelming sorrow. No, don't do this to her. As soon as I opened my mouth, a porcelain spoon was pressed against my lips. I was delirious from being sick. When I opened my eyes and saw His Majesty feeding me medicine, I couldn't stop crying and fussing. You are not my little senior brother. I want to see my little senior brother. The person in front of me was very anxious. Ying, I am Xiao Shu. I shook off his hand, shaking my head wildly. I couldn't tell what day it was anymore, just kept crying and coughing violently. But the next moment, someone held my hand again. Ying, it is me. That voice was clear and pleasant, like a breeze on Qingyang Mountain. Listen to your little senior brother and take your medicine. My groggy mind finally regained a shred of clarity. It is Xiao Shu. I stopped crying. The immense sorrow seemed to leave me. How could there be so much misery? I am just a new bride on Qingyang Mountain, waiting for my husband to come home. Yeah, right before me, my little senior brother sat by the bed and fed a spoonful of medicine to my lips. His Majesty, meanwhile, stood to the side holding the medicine bowl with a livid face, his knuckles turning slightly white. I am very obedient. I swallowed the bitter medicine spoonful by spoonful and gestured to little senior brother about that dream. I had a nightmare. His Majesty's wrist jerked. He almost lost his grip on the medicine bowl. I realized it a beat too late and nervously tugged at little senior brother's sleeve. Hurry up and take the bowl. How can you let Imperial Father do this? Little senior brother didn't move. I glared at him. He paused. Oh. His Majesty, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly stood up. Rest well and recover. Then he pointed at my little senior brother. You, get over here. I waited, and after a good while, my little senior brother came back. I was really curious about what His Majesty said to him. But this guy's lips are sealed. I couldn't get anything out of him no matter what. I had no choice but to change the subject. Strange, did His Majesty's eyes just get red? Little senior brother wiped my mouth half-heartedly. I protested. Hey, he blinked, like a sly wildcat. It is not strange. His eyes will probably get red a lot more times. The palace isn't as fun as Qingyang Mountain. Little senior brother was really busy and only showed up when I took my medicine. His Majesty, on the other hand, always came to keep me company. Every time he came, he wouldn't say anything, just stared at me non-stop. That day, I gathered up my courage and asked him, "Your Majesty, have you agreed to grant me a marriage?" His face was dark. "Do you like him that much?" "Yeah," I smiled. "I like him a lot. I like him the most." If I looked up right now, I would see that His Majesty in front of me was actually trembling all over, but I was lost in my own world. Thinking of something, I added in a small voice, "Your Majesty, actually, I am pregnant. But all the imperial doctors say I am not weird." These words were like a stone dropped into water. His Majesty crushed the teacup in his hand, the shards cutting his palm. "What did you say?" I was startled. It is true. I was already 3 months pregnant when I came down the mountain. Counting the days, I probably got pregnant on our wedding night. Thinking about it, I felt a bit of lingering fear. Luckily, Your Majesty came to save me. Otherwise, if I had been taken away by the horse bandits, the baby would have been in grave danger. His Majesty's face turned deathly pale. He staggered back 2 steps, his eyes full of shock and pain, muttering to himself. "So you were already pregnant back then. Why didn't you tell me?" I was bewildered. What? I felt vaguely uneasy. It was as if I had forgotten something important. What was it? At night, I had a dream about being kidnapped by horse bandits. I wrote a lot of letters to my little senior brother, but no one came to save me. I escaped on a snowy night. The heavy snow was freezing to the bone, and the wind cut like a knife. Even though I risked my life to escape, the unformed little life in my belly stayed in that cold night forever. This dream was too terrifying. I woke up scared, my face covered in tears. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw little senior brother holding a medicine bowl, sitting by the bed. Under the candlelight, his features were gentle as jade. He was incredibly good to me. Every now and then, he'd bring me fun new things to relieve my boredom. Sometimes it was a comic book, sometimes a little flying wooden bird. I always felt he was a bit different from when we were on the mountain. What was different about him? I furrowed my brows, but just couldn't figure it out. Little senior brother is just so good to me. Little senior brother. The overwhelming happiness made me panic. I hugged his neck, but tears fell. "I am scared. Little senior brother, just let me hold him." Owning hand gently combed through my messy hair. I cried until I was tired and fell into a deep sleep, in a daze. Something soft brushed against my ear, like someone's lips. There was a voice as light as a sigh. "But, Ying, this isn't fair. When will you ever see me?" The pastries little senior brother brought changed from wisteria cakes to mung bean cakes. Only then did I realize that it was already summer. The weather was nice and sunny that day. Auntie was directing the little palace maids to carry the chests out of the hall to air them in the sun. I quietly opened a chest. Inside, it was piled full of calligraphy and paintings. Like old stuff someone forgot to take away. I unrolled the scroll and froze. Suddenly, a voice sounded from above my head. "What are you looking at, so lost in thought?" I jumped in fright and quickly hid the painting behind my back. Looking up, I saw little senior brother sitting on the wall, resting his chin in his hand, looking at me with a smile. I breathed a sigh of relief and glared at him. "You scared me to death. Why didn't you use the door?" "Because I sneaked in," he tessed. "You know, His Majesty is really petty. He won't let me see you much." I was filled with indignation. His Majesty is really going too far. My illness is almost completely healed. I should be let out of the palace. Little senior brother nodded in agreement. "Yeah, exactly." The red walls were solemn and silent. The young man was smiling brightly. In the light and shadows of midsummer, he reached out his hand to me. "Come on up. I'll take you out of the palace to have fun." Little senior brother's hands were very cold. He was probably very nervous, as the palms of our clasped hands were covered in cold sweat. We sneaked out of the palace. After many twists and turns, we stopped in front of a grand garden. My eyes lit up. "Is this your home?" In the blink of an eye, I saw little senior brother squatting sneakily by the wall. "Come quickly, Ying, step on my back and climb over." Me, the 2 of us sneaked into the rear garden like thieves. Even though we didn't alert anyone, I was still a bit worried. Is it really a good idea for us to do this? It is fine. Little senior brother tightened his grip on my hand. "This house belongs to a friend of mine. He really welcomes cute little ladies like you." I hesitated for a moment. That sounds a bit like a pervert. Little senior brother went weirdly silent. No, he said with difficulty. Let me explain. His name is Xiao Huijin. He is a good guy. I can't really remember much of what happened that day anymore, but I remember this good guy. Little senior brother's words kept lingering in my ears. Him. He was originally a playboy who enjoyed flowers and the moon, playing around in the world and not caring about anything. But later, he met someone, and for the first time, he had a want. He wanted to protect her. I pictured this person's face in my mind, playing with the trumpet creeper hanging down to my shoulder. I recalled his name. Xiao Huaye Jin. Little senior brother responded softly. Mum. The Empress's summons came 3 days later. The eunuch who came to deliver the decree had a straight face, but he didn't say what it was about. I suspected that my sneaking out of the palace with little senior brother had been discovered. As soon as I entered the hall and saw His Majesty, with a cold face, I was really nervous. Then I glanced over and saw little senior brother was there too. I tried to shoot him a questioning look. I wanted to ask him if he knew what had happened. Little senior brother pursed his lips and gently shook his head at me. Our sneaking out of the palace must have been exposed. I hung my head. The woman beside His Majesty spoke in a low voice, privately associating with an outside man, disregarding palace rules. Consort Shu, do you plead guilty? Hearing this, I instantly relaxed. These days, there is always someone mistaking me for Consort Shu. But what do the bad things Consort Shu did have to do with me? Wenying? Besides, I don't even know any outside man. I spoke up righteously. I am not guilty. Your Majesty the Empress, I am not Consort Shu. You've got the wrong person. I saw little senior brother's lips twitch. He couldn't hold it back and let out a laugh. I looked up and glared at him. The Empress was furious. You two, showing no respect for the Emperor, and you still dare to make eyes at each other. Little senior brother was puzzled. I entered the palace solely on Imperial Brother's orders. The Imperial Household Department has it on record. Your Majesty the Empress, do you have evidence for this private association you speak of? The Empress sneered. Guards. Eunuchs brought up a wooden box. Seeing that box, my heart skipped a beat. Wait, I said in a panic. Don't. The Empress smiled even wider. Stepping down the stairs, she personally unrolled the painting scroll from the wooden box. This painting was found in Consort Shu's palace. This is the evidence. In the painting was a dashing and charming young man in brocade clothes. He was leaning under an apricot tree, reading. On Mount Qingyang in March, the apricot blossoms were like snow, falling all over his shoulders and sleeves. The young man was engrossed in his book, completely oblivious that not far away, someone was holding a paintbrush, secretly sketching his features. The whole hall was dead silent. His Majesty stared intently at the painting, but said nothing. Little senior brother folded his fan with a swish. Empress, are you saying, this is the evidence of this prince and consort Shu stepping out of line? The Empress's beautiful eyes widened in a glare. Things have come to this. What else do you have to say? He leaned in to take a couple of looks and commented, Not a bad painting. The Empress was infuriated by his flippant look. Slamming the table fiercely, you still dare to make excuses. Isn't this painting exactly a portrait of you? Enough. His Majesty roared. He was like an enraged lion, his eyes bloodshot. This matter ends here. The Empress is grounded for half a year. Without my decree, no one is allowed to visit. The Empress widened her eyes in disbelief. Your Majesty, she cried. The evidence is conclusive. How can you shield her? Little senior brother went. Hasn't. The Empress recognized it yet. The person in the painting isn't this prince, but His Majesty. I looked blankly at the youth in the painting. He had a red mole at the corner of his eye. I looked at little senior brother. He turned his face away, not daring to meet my gaze. Then I looked at His Majesty. At the corner of his eye, a red mole was exceptionally clear. Such an obvious mole. Why didn't I notice it? This part is simply the god-tier plot twist of the whole story. Absolutely amazing. The Empress originally thought she was being smart, trying to catch evidence of an illicit affair. But what she dug up was a pure love portrait of the Emperor from back before he turned into a scumbag. By the way, let me explain to everyone why Ying Ying drew the red mole. Yet after losing her memory didn't realize Prince Duan didn't have one, and instead mistook Prince Duan for Xiao Shu. Because when someone suffers extreme pain, The brain triggers a self-defense mechanism, subconsciously, to escape the tragic reality that Xiaoshu betrayed her. Ying directly stripped the current cold-blooded emperor out of her memories. She projected her pure love for little senior brother onto Prince Duan, who looked exactly like little senior brother did back then, but hadn't hurt her. This red mole is the lock sealing the memories in her subconscious. I thought blankly. His Majesty looked back at me, his lips parting and closing. He was calling me. He was calling Ying. An immense fear engulfed me. Deep in my memories, it felt like something was awakening. Many voices calling Injing rang out in my mind at the same time. Ying, I love you. Ying, the Empress is spoiled and overbearing. You should give way to her more. Ying, I treat you well. Ying, I had no other choice either. Don't blame me. I finally saw clearly. That was the collapse of our past vows of eternal love. Everything it said was a lie, chattering endlessly. I was dreaming again. In the dream, I returned to Qingyang Mountain. I saw 14-year-old Wen Ying. She hid behind an apricot tree, peeking at the boy that master had brought up the mountain a few days ago. Am I good looking? The boy turned a page of his book and raised an eyebrow. Wen Ying thought she had hidden herself very well, and was startled. Dawdling, she shuffled out from behind the tree. Good looking. The boy laughed with a PFFT. Then tomorrow, you must remember to come see me too. He blinked slyly. Dare to make a pinky swear? Wen Ying fell for it easily. Fine, let's pinky swear. Whoever doesn't come is a puppy. The wind blew, and apricot blossoms fluttered down like snow. In the blink of an eye, 17-year-old Wen Ying was wearing a red silk skirt, blushing. It was their wedding night. The young man stood behind her, putting up her hair for her. Finally, he slipped in a wooden hairpin. He said, "A hairpin is given to one's first wife." Wen Ying didn't understand and asked him, "What does first wife mean?" He said, "Tying our hair to become husband and wife, loving each other without any doubts." Then later on, Xiaoshu, in order to secure the throne, married the noble daughter of the Shen family. When kneeling below the steps to pay respects to the emperor and empress, Wen Ying learned another term called a wife of hardships. And now, the 7th year as a consort, the 10th year since we met, 24-year-old Wen Ying has become a bird trapped to death inside the palace walls. Freedom, a child. Love. I actually have nothing at all. A beautiful start but a bitter end. Only now do I admit I was wrong back then. Secretly shedding red tears. Eyes full of the spring breeze, yet nothing is right anymore. He ruined my entire life. Yet told me, this is love. I finally walked out of Qingyang Mountain from my dreams. After 7 years, the apricot blossoms on Qingyang Mountain have long been gone. Seeing me wake up, the eunuchs brought over the golden book and golden seal, and everyone in the hall congratulated me. Congratulations, Your Highness the Imperial Noble Consort. Xiaoshu pressed my doublest against his face, full of deep affection. Ying, all these years I have neglected you. Your little senior brother still treats you as before. His guilt and deep affection always came very late. I have made a fool of myself in front of your Majesty. It is just. I pulled my hand away very calmly. My little senior brother died a long time ago. You shouldn't mention him anymore. It was you who cut off the past with your own hands, your Majesty. Xiaoshu's face turned pale. The head eunuch put on a smile and came out to smooth things over. Your Highness, you are now the Imperial Noble Consort, with a status equal to the Vice Empress. What an honor. Don't be stubborn with your Majesty. Hurry up and accept the decree. I bowed down. A look of joy had just flashed across Xiaoshu's face. When he heard me say, "I wouldn't dare, please take back your order, your Majesty," Xiaoshu froze. His eyes were full of a shattered look. Ying, stop being mad at little senior brother, okay? Or is it that my Ying wants to be the Empress? As he said this, he paused and coaxed me softly. It is not impossible. Ying, just give in. Call me little senior brother one more time, okay? I lowered my head and bowed again. There is no need. Your Majesty, please depose me as your consort and let me leave the palace. That day Xiaoshu stared at me blankly for a long time. He actually looked like he was truly heartbroken. He just kept repeating one sentence. Ying, don't even think about it. The next time I saw Xiao Huijin was in the middle of the night. After 3 bird calls, a sneaky youth appeared on top of the wall. Back when I had amnesia, he used to take me sneaking out of the palace to play. That was why we had a way of exchanging secret signals. I gazed at that face so similar to an old friend's. After a long silence, I raised my hand and brushed the fallen leaves off his shoulder. "Your Highness doesn't need to do this," I said softly. "I am foolish, bothering your Highness to play along with my nonsense." Xiao Huijin grabbed my wrist. Under the moonlight, the charming young man tilted his head to look at me. The red mole under his eye was bright and vivid. "My royal brother is old. I am willing to serve your ladyship." I stared at him blankly, yet I couldn't utter a word. From this angle, he looks too much like him. Back then, Xiao Shu lusted after me for my looks, and how could I not have coveted his body too? Xiao Huijin leaned against my side like a puppy. His warm breath carried the crisp freshness of a youth. "How can your Highness just love and leave me?" A triumphant slyness hid at the corners of his brows. Yet he sounded so incredibly wronged when he spoke. "You have to take responsibility for your subject, brother." Xiao Huijin was right. A young man's feelings are passionate and vibrant. His royal brother really has gotten old. Ever since I rejected him, Xiao Shu comes over almost every day. It just goes to show how cheap the human heart is. Seeing that I don't want to talk to him, he just starts talking about the past on Qingyang Mountain, all by himself. I noticed it back then, the very first time you peeked at me. I'd go read under the apricot tree every day. Actually, I was waiting for you, Ying Ying. The night breeze was slightly cool. I was feeling drowsy, in one ear and out the other. Xiao Shu was lost in his own memories. He didn't even notice that I had no interest in listening at all. "Ying Ying," he said sadly. "When I got your letter back then, the Empress was sick and I couldn't get away. When you lost the baby, my pain was no less than yours." I snapped awake. Xiao Shu was staring right at me, his voice hoarse. "Ying, I'll give you another child. Let's make up, okay?" He held my wrist, then paused. "Why are you so cold? Let your little senior brother warm you up." A crisp smack. I snatched my hand back warily and backed into the corner. Xiao Shu clutched his struck cheek in disbelief. His head turned to the side. "Ying, you hit me?" He was just about to lose his temper. When he heard my tearful voice, "You are not allowed to mention little senior brother." Xiao Shu was stunned. A breath caught in his chest, unable to go up or down. His face instantly turned ashen, and he clutched his chest, coughing violently until he was out of breath. He was so remorseful, I simply added more fuel to the fire, looking at him as if just waking from a dream, my eyes full of panic and sorrow. "Your Majesty, why don't you look like little senior brother anymore?" Parting with Xiao Huijin was in the autumn. Due to the flood in Changzhou, Xiao Huijin was ordered to provide disaster relief and set off immediately. I didn't even have time to see him once. Half a month later, a white pigeon landed at my window, bringing a letter from afar. "To my dearest Yang, I have arrived in Changzhou. Everything is fine. Do not worry about me, my dearest. Thinking of you in the long night, I got up and carved a few wooden hairpins to pin up your hair when I return. Longing for our reunion, handwritten by Huijin, on a night in Changzhou." From then on, different pigeons brought me his letters. From autumn to deep winter, one day, I saw tender green buds on the branches. Only then did I realize that it was already spring. Under the window, a gray pigeon brought the 19th letter. I don't know when it started. The contents of the letters started getting weird. What was weird about them? Probably that Xiao Huijin stopped rambling about trivial matters. Instead, he was confessing his love over and over again, testing me time and time again to see if I loved him. I stroked the letter paper, my heart skipping an inexplicable beat. This didn't seem like Xiao Huijin. It seemed more like someone else. "What are you looking at, Ying Ying?" Behind me, Xiao Shu's smiling voice rang out. I jolted in shock, and quickly tucked the letter into my sleeve. Xiao Shu watched the pigeon flying away from the windowsill. "Since Prince Duan left, there are quite a few more pigeons in the palace." He chuckled. "That is fine too. Makes things lively." I had just breathed a sigh of relief. Then I heard him remark, "Prince Duan won't be coming back. His birds sure are lively though." I was shaken to the core. "What?" Xiao Shu turned around, looking at me with a smile, but it sent a chill down my spine. "During the refugee riots a month ago, my good brother fell off a cliff. He has been dead for a while now. Tell me, Ying Ying, What posthumous title should I give him? But less than half a month later, I received a letter from Xiao Huaijin. He said falling off the cliff was his trick to escape. He was going to give up everything and run far away with me. Meet me at the 10-mile pavilion outside the capital on the 6th day of the 4th month. I gripped the letter and stared at it for a long time. Soon, the day of the meeting arrived. I arrived as promised and waited in the pavilion. Samoni walked out from the twilight. Behind him was a swarming mass of imperial guards. The person who came wasn't Xiao Huaijin, it was Xiao Shu. Yingjiying, you came after all. Why is it you? I was stunned. Xiao Huaijin. You mean my good brother. Xiao Shu closed in step by step, chuckling pleasantly. Didn't I tell you long ago? He fell off the cliff, hasn't he already turned to ashes? My whole body went cold. I struggled to look up at him. Xiao Shu's eyes were deeply sunken, his expression morbid and paranoid. Because he actually dared to covet you. He brought it upon himself. You are mine, Yangying. No one can take you away. I was trapped in a secret estate in the suburbs of the capital, losing track of day and night. Just how far did you two actually go? Xiao Shu gripped my wrist in a death grip, his eyes filled with crazy jealousy, forcing me back until I had nowhere left to retreat. Did he cross the line? I gave up struggling, looking at his crazed state. Just one soft sentence. I hate you, little senior brother. Xiao Shu jerked his head up, meeting my lifeless gaze. His movements froze. Then just hate me, Yingying. He was like a cornered beast at the end of its rope. Never forget me. If I can't get your love, getting your hate is fine too. Right at this moment when his mind was the most turbulent, and he was completely defenseless. The wooden hairpin hidden in my sleeve, the one he had carved with his own hands back then, slid into my palm. I gripped it tightly. The wooden hairpin slashed through the brocade, stabbing fiercely into his shoulder blade. Xiao Shu's body gave a violent shudder. He looked down in disbelief, watching that old keepsake representing past vows sink deep into his flesh. Didn't you want my hate? My voice was terrifyingly calm. Exerting force with my hand, I drove that wooden hairpin another inch deeper, making his face turn deathly pale from the pain. This is my hate. In a lot of novels, the male lead goes crazy and says, "It is fine if you hate me, as long as you remember me," and the female lead can only cry and be forced into Stockholm Syndrome. But who is our Yangying? Since you want hate, then I'll give you the most direct hate. Don't give me that, torturing each other until our hair turns white crap. The moment that wooden hairpin stabbed down, it was truly the most perfect end for this scumbag. No forgiveness at all, just the sober clarity of completely cutting ties. He let out a muffled groan of pain, his strength instantly drained as he staggered backward. My hand was very steady as I looked at him coldly. Xiao Shu looked at me, the madness in his eyes gradually fading away. Only emptiness and bewilderment remained. He didn't know. When I received that letter to elope, I had already noticed something was off. This wasn't Xiao Huaijin's tone. I should have realized it sooner. A long time ago, Xiao Shu had already intercepted the letters. This was a trap he had carefully woven. I had Xiao Tao deliver a letter to Chongzhou. I didn't use the connections Xiao Huaijin left for me, but secretly found someone outside the palace. I told Xiao Huaijin, if he was still alive, on the 6th day of the 4th month, Xiao Shu would go to Shili Pavilion on the outskirts of the capital, and I would too. Xiao Shu had made up his mind to pull the weeds up by their roots. Rather than sitting around waiting to die, it was better to beat him at his own game. Behind me, the heavy wooden door of the secret courtyard was kicked open. Someone arrived bathed in light, looking travel-worn. My eyes felt hot, maybe because the sunlight was blinding. It is so great, he is still alive. A Ying. I am here to get you. Xiao Huaijin strode closer. The imperial guards from outside the hall filed in, aiming their heavy crossbows at the panicked Xiao Shu. Royal brother, you lost. Xiao Shu slumped to the ground. He looked at Xiao Huaijin, then looked at me. Like he'd heard the biggest joke in the world, he started laughing uncontrollably. I lost. He struggled to point at me. Do you think you are the one she likes? Xiao Shu glared at him venomously. She is just using your eyes to look at the old me. So what if your face looks so much like mine? We're both just illusions in her dream. Xiao Huaijin's expression was calm. I am willing. He looked coldly at Xiao Shu, who was like a beaten dog, and retorted. The one by her side right now is me. The next moment, Xiao Huijin coldly waved his hand. The Imperial guards rushed forward and pinned him down tightly, completely putting an end to Xiao Shu's frantic counterattack. Take down this madman who intends to rebel. Also, you are too noisy, Imperial brother. The situation in the royal court changed rapidly. The emperor suddenly caught a severe illness and died abruptly, throwing the capital into chaos. His Highness Prince Duan returned from disaster relief in Chongzhou, turned the tide, and stabilized the court. On an ordinary summer night, I said goodbye to him. I am leaving the palace. In the hall, the candlelight flickered. Xiao Huijin, who was about to become the new emperor, held my hand and said anxiously, "Are those people stirring up trouble in front of you again?" "I will handle it, a Ying. Don't listen to them. You will be my wife, the Empress of Dasheng." I shook my head, raised my hand, and gently smoothed his furrowed brows. "Smile," I said softly. "You are so young. Don't always frown." Xiao Huijin was stunned for a moment. Then suddenly he hugged me tightly. I know what kind of pressure he has been under these days in order to marry me. One day when I was delivering pastries to him, I heard a few old ministers admonishing him with fierce words. That woman of the Wen family was originally a concubine of the late emperor, yet she is entangled with your highness. She absolutely cannot be kept. Please think twice, your highness. If this woman is made empress, I am afraid the world will criticize it, and the empire will be unstable. Please put the state and the empire first, your highness. Then, I heard Xiao Huijin's voice. Have you said enough? He said coldly. It was I, the prince, who fell for the imperial noble consort first. Why don't you just punish me along with her? Everyone in the hall was stunned. Hiding in the shadows outside the hall, I suddenly shed tears. I believed his feelings were genuine. But genuine feelings can change in an instant. Back then on Qingyang Mountain, Xiao Shu was just as sincere. When a man gets lost in love, he can still walk away. When a woman gets lost in love, there is no escape. This time, I don't want to stay anymore. Xiao Huijin. For the first time, I called out his name so clearly. It is too lonely inside these palace walls. These 7 years I've gotten sick of looking at this square patch of sky. I looked out at the pitch-black night beyond the window, my voice light and distant. A few days ago, Xiao Tao went back to Qingyang Mountain. I want to go see the world outside the palace walls, too. Xiao Huijin fell silent for a long time. So long that a candle crackled with a pop, bursting out a spark. He asked hoarsely, "Then what about me, Wen Ying? Are you going to leave me here all alone?" I smiled softly, my gaze distant. "You have always been free, Your Majesty." After a long while, he let go of me bit by bit. A fleeting, restrained kiss landed on my lips, like some kind of reluctant promise. I patted his head. Then, goodbye. Xiao Huijin stared intently at me with red eyes, as if to etch my face into his memory, never to forget it for the rest of his life. He turned his head away sulkily. I am not going to say goodbye to you. I still saw it. A single tear fell from the corner of his eye, silently vanishing into his collar. Later, much later, I left the imperial city. I went to many places, saw the snow on the high peaks, the moon of the northern desert, and the flowers of Jiangyan, just like before I met Xiao Shu, just as that wild girl running madly all over Qingyang Mountain had wished. Carefree, wandering the world, Xiao Huijin's pigeons could always find me. Seeing his words was like seeing him in person. In his letters, he seemed like a boy who would never grow up. Always, over and over again, asking me when I'll head back to the capital, to pay a visit to him, this poor loner. The mountain wind snatched the letter paper away, as if annoyed by my lack of focus. I couldn't help but laugh. As for when I'll return, before my eyes is the impression, sunrise over the sea of clouds, heaven and earth bathed in molten gold. No set date for my return, because Ying is, after all, a free bird. Reading the last line, Ying Oriole is, after all, a free bird. My nose really stung a bit, but mostly I am just so happy for her. To be honest, if it were the ancient romance tropes I used to read, Ying probably would have just naturally married the devoted Xiao Huijin and stayed in the harem as the empress. But would she really be happy like that? Back on Mount Qingyang, Xiao Shu was also full of sincerity. But imperial power, and the harem, this square golden cage, ultimately twisted love completely beyond recognition. Ying saw right through this, so so she chose not to look back. She didn't step out of one man's cage into another man's bed. Instead, she truly found herself, going out to see the desert moon and the flowers of Jiangnan. The moment she used that wooden hairpin to sever her past romance back then, she was reborn. As Faye, who has been following the updates right alongside you all, I seriously love this ending so much. It tells us girls, love is great and all, but it is definitely not our whole life. Don't be anyone's canary. Always be the carefree bird soaring over mountains and seas in your own world. Alright, that is it for today's story. See you guys in the next one.